All right.
Yay!
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
All right. So we are back today with our live show for Tress of the Emerald Sea. Oh my gosh, we all have the book this time.
Yes, look at us.
I love your edition, Mary. That's so pretty.
It's the UK one. Yeah.
The UK Brandon Sanderson are always good.
Yeah. They have all of them have kind of this same style, I guess. It's like white with some pretty design. Yeah, I really like it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while because I wasn't here for the last live show. So it's been a while since I've been on a live show, but it feels really good to be back. How's everyone been doing?
Good.
Yeah, excited to be here. Yeah.
All right. So before we dive into Tress of the Emerald Sea, we can all chat about what we're reading right now. I know my reading year has been a little bit of a mess. Like my Goodreads goal is very in the distance, but it's moving along. So Sarah, do you want to go first and say what you've been reading right now?
Yes, of course. Well, since I finished Tress yesterday, I haven't officially started anything yet, but I know what I'm going to be reading, so I'm going to talk about that. I am about to start Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, which I'm very excited about because I've heard great things about it, so I hope it's good. But yeah, this book is so beautiful, by the way. I love it so much. And it is blurred by Erin Morgenstern and John Green, which is always green flags for me. So I think I'm going to enjoy it. I think some of you have read it, right? Sophia and Hilary, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I think you both liked it, right?
I loved it, but it is a little bit on the longer side. It's kind of a story about video game creators throughout their whole life, so it follows different parts of their life, but I liked that. It was really
good. Okay.
Yeah, it's a really gut-wrenching exploration of the relationships in the book, and I feel like that is one of the reasons why John Green really loved it and endorsed it. And honestly, that quote on his blurb on the back of the book is one of the reasons that convinced me to pick it up. I think that the tone and mood of the book just wasn't really for me. It was darker and sadder than I thought, and I didn't exactly agree with the kind of relationships that were being portrayed. So those are my issues, but well written. I could see why people really love that book, and I think you'll like it. I have a feeling you'll really like it.
Okay, great, perfect. I'll see what Erin Morgenstern has to say about it, because I remember I read her blurb, but I don't remember exactly what she says. But because Erin Morgenstern also works a little bit with video games and stuff, and those kind of concepts. She talks a little bit about it in The Starless Sea. Much less in The Night Circus, obviously, but in the Starless Sea a little bit. So I think that's why she gravitated towards it. So maybe I'll like that about it. But yeah, okay, I'll be prepared to be emotionally destroyed. So that's good to know. It's good to know that it's darker. We'll see if I'm in the right head space to read it now. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna be reading soon.
Cool. Nice.
Hilary, do you want to go next?
Sure. I haven't started this yet either because, like Sarah, I just finished Tress. So now I can, transition into my next book. So I am going to hopefully read True Love, The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. I just borrowed this from my library, and I feel like lately I've been borrowing books and then the due date comes up and I have to return it without reading it. So this time I want to break the curse. So we'll see if I get to that.
Is that their latest?
Yeah, it's their new release. And I've heard really good things about it. I've heard that it's better than their their second recent release. So we'll see what happens with that. And I'm listening to an audiobook. I always forget the name of it. I think it's The Great Displacement, which is a nonfiction book about climate change. So that's a downer.
Fun.
It's good. I know.
Well, at least the romance will balance it out,
Yeah, exactly.
True. Let me know if you like it though, because I kind of like reading nonfiction about climate change, even though it depresses me a lot. But I find it interesting. Yeah,
it's really eye-opening so far. I do really like it a lot.
Okay, good. Yeah. I will probably add it to the list then.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I guess we are all on the same place then, because I also finished Tress, so I'm about to start another book, and that will be Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. It is beautiful. I'm intrigued by it, even though I've heard mixed reviews, so I'm not sure exactly what to expect. I don't know exactly what it is about even, but it is my current Patreon book club pick, so people voted for it. We're reading it together, so that will be fun at least. And it is gorgeous, so I'm excited.
I love that cover. It's lovely.
I know, it's so pretty. Look at that.
It's so funny because like the US one is like so dark.
I know.
Yeah.
They're kind of opposites, but I love this one. It's so
nice.
cute.
Strawberries.
Yeah. I know. It's so cute.
Very cute.
Yeah.
I hope you like it. I'm on the waiting list for the audiobook at the library.
Oh, right.
I'm going to wait for a little while.
That's okay.
Fine. I'll read it.
Fine. Yeah.
What are you reading, Sophia?
All right. So I am kind of like in the middle of the new Riley Sager. But I took a break to read Tress. So but I have been really enjoying the beginning of this. I almost gave up on Riley Sager books after his last release, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but I figured like, let's just give it one more go. And so far I'm really, really liking this. It's like a mystery set on, it's like in a kind of mansion by the sea. And this caretaker is taking care of this lady who supposedly like killed her whole family. And she's like looking into the mystery of that. So but so far I've really been enjoying this one.
Was his last release The House Across the Lake?
I think so. Yeah.
Was that by him? Yeah, I was with my friend when she was reading that, and she got to the end and was so angry. She told me everything about it, and I was just like, yeah, that sounds bad.
Oh no.
But I love like his initial like 3 books. I loved all of them. So I was like, I have to keep reading because maybe we'll get back there. He's just taken a little bit of a different tone in his most recent books, I think.
Okay.
And then after that, I have these 2 books from my library that my holds are almost up on. So I was probably going to pick up one of these after I finish the Riley Sager. Have any of you guys read the new Emily Henry?
I have.
Yes. Did you guys like it?
No.
So my Goodreads rating is 4 stars. That's the weird thing because I read the arc of it last year, and I feel like I was just sort of in an Emily Henry like daze, and I'm like, oh, this was good. Yeah, I loved it. But now I feel like now that I've had some distance from it, I just didn't love it as much as I did then. It's weird. Yeah. I know Sarah really loved it though.
Yeah, I really loved it. It completely destroyed me emotionally. It's one of the best books I've read this year so far, but like it wrecked the heck out of me. In a good way, but like it made me sob my eyes out.
I feel like I need that though. I've been reading so many thrillers and like fantasy. I think I need just like a romance. It's a
very cathartic experience, but it will just basically destroy you. But it's also like the romance is also very fun. I just feel like the romance isn't as central in this one as it usually is in her books. I feel like this one talks also a lot about like the emotional journey of the characters and like their growth and stuff like that. It's more focused on that almost. Rather than the romance. So I think that's also maybe why some people didn't like it as much, because they were expecting like more romance rather than this like heart-wrenching tale. But yeah, it's really, really good. And it's still fun. Like I still laughed out loud while reading it. Like it's not depressing or whatever, but it just, it was a lot.
And then this is the new Kate Morton book. I know we read it, Kate Morton, earlier. It is chunky, but yeah, I'm excited about this too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my cats are just like pawing at my door.
Oh,
Let him in. Go for it.
They will knock over everything, maybe in a little bit. All right. So are we ready to chat about Tress?
let's do it.
Okay. All right. So I guess we can start with any spoiler or not spoilers, any content warnings that you guys can think of.
Like kind of like implications of abuse, not really like abuse on the page, but like you can kind of tell that it's there, like of a parent on a child. Is there anything else?
Yeah, there aren't a lot, I feel like.
No, I feel like this one is pretty lighthearted.
Mhm.
Overall.
There were some mentions of like bloody violence, but it didn't really go into too much detail.
Oh yeah. The way that it's like explored is not like in your face or like very like intense or you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a pretty light book, I feel like.
Yeah. Actually, you know how we were talking about when we were talking about Empire of Exiles that like I had said, oh, this one's pretty short. Maybe it would be a good entry into fantasy. I was wrong. This one would be though.
This would be a great entry into fantasy.
Yeah. Like if you want to read Brandon Sanderson and you're very, very scared of his other books and his other series because they're all gigantic, I would say like this one is not like the most Brandon Sanderson-y book ever, but if you like this and then you're ready for like a challenge, then you can pick his other books. I feel like that would be the way that I would describe it. Would you agree, Mary? Or
I'm gonna have to slightly disagree. I mean, I get where you're coming from. I think it's a good fantasy starter, but not necessarily a Sanderson starter, because people might have the wrong expectations if you start with this one. I was gonna say, like, for me, the best starter one for Benderson is still Mistborn.
Mistborn,
because it's kind of it's an easy way in, I feel like, into more, you know, high stakes fantasy, because the magic system is not that hard to understand, and you get more of a feeling of his writing style.
Yeah, it gives more of an idea. You're right. This one is more different. Yeah,
it's very different, but I agree with you that it's a good entry into fantasy, because it's a very light novel, very fun, whimsical. So I guess with that I agree, but not necessarily like the best one if you want to start with Sanderson and see kind of what he's like usually. This is not a good example, I would say.
Yeah, because he's more big brain than that usually. Like you have to you really have to focus to understand his books. So
yeah, exactly.
Do we want to go around and give a like
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to go first?
I can go. Also, should we give like a little synopsis or
Oh yeah. All right, so this is a, I would say, pretty lighthearted fantasy novel that follows Tress. She lives on this island, and she has kind of a very like peaceful existence. She just like sits on the rocks and she collects cups from sailors when they come back, and you know, her family lives there. But she starts to care a lot about this boy named Charlie, and I won't go too far into it because I don't want to spoil it, but he basically disappears. And this book is Tress's quest to find him and to kind of make sure that he's okay and that he's safe. And there's a lot more that goes into it, but I think that's like a general background for it. I did think the tone of this book it really reminded me of The Princess Bride, and I know that Brandon Sanderson, in the last like little chapter where he was talking about how he came up for like with what he wanted to write and the tone he wanted to write, he kind of talked about he got inspiration from that. So definitely like a fantasy, but a little bit more like lighthearted and whimsical,
funny and like a little bit absurd sometimes.
Yeah.
I think anything else you would add? I guess there's like a lot more that you could go into, but I don't want to spoil too much.
No, I think that's good for a synopsis.
It's good.
Yeah. do you want to tell us what you thought about it?
Sure.
Okay.
I finished this morning, so I'm still kind of like thinking through my thoughts. I think I'm going to go ahead with like a 3.5 stars. I really, really enjoyed reading the book. I thought the writing was great. I've never read any Brandon Sanderson before, so my thought about like what his books were like is that they're, you know, fantasies with a lot of characters and a lot going on. So I thought I was very pleasantly surprised that this was easy to follow and kind of just easy to read. I am not a huge fan of like quest books where it's a very linear timeline and we're going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. So I think that, and I'm also not a huge fan of like pirate being on the sea type of books. So I don't know that this was the book exactly for me of what I typically like to read, but in terms of like a well-written, whimsical, fun fantasy, I think that this was a lot of fun and I really, really enjoyed it.
Yay! I count that as a win.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. This is very like a Brandon Sanderson year for me, as you all know. And once again, he didn't let me down. I really, really enjoyed this. I would say like on the first, like when I first finished it, I was just like 5 stars. Like this is incredible. I loved it. It's beautiful. I would say like maybe now I'm thinking maybe like more of a 4.5, which is not a big difference. But yeah, I just really enjoyed this, and I think also it's because like the we can talk about it more into the spoilery section of this live, but like the narrator, I know the narrator from this book because this book is about Tress, but it is not narrated by Tress. Another person is basically telling you the story, kind of like a fairy tale. And I just love this character so much. He is like one of my favorite characters of all time. And having him narrate this book just works so well, and it is so funny. So I was reading that and just laughing out loud because like so many of the things that he would say and like all of the little comments that he would give about the plot and the characters were just so hilarious to me. And yeah, I thought this was like just very, very fun. Like you said, Sophia, very heartwarming. Like the characters are very, very sweet and you really root for them. Like it's not a groundbreaking story or anything. It's not like he's not reinventing the wheel like he usually does, because like when you read Brandon Sanderson, that's the thing also, like he takes you to places that like you wouldn't think he would take you. And even if his stories can sound very like straightforward when you hear about them, he always just like adds his own twist to them. And I feel like he didn't as much in this one, but also that's what I was expecting because everybody kept telling me that this is like a fairy tale for adults. So this is exactly the vibe that I was thinking that it was going to be. So in that sense, I'm not like disappointed about it. I was just like, yeah, this was a fairy tale for adults and it was fun, and like that's basically what I was expecting. So I'm just like, yeah, this was great, 5 stars. Like I don't have like anything bad to say about it because my expectations were met. And yeah, I thought it was super fun. Also, there's a talking animal, so you know I'm going to like it. And it was just very cute, and I really, really enjoyed it. So, and I also love quest stories. So personally, like those kind of, you know, like characters going from point A to point B and all of the little shenanigans that happen in between, kind of like Lord of the Rings, for instance, I love that. So this is just basically like this was a book written for me. Like it's funny, it's heartwarming, and there's a quest. So like I'm sold. So yeah, I liked it.
That's great.
Yay!
I think for me, I am like between the two of you, I'm more aligned with Sophia's thoughts about it. I finished it an hour ago, so again, I'm still like letting it sink in. I enjoyed the like whimsical nature of it. I loved how it was just like a fun, I don't want to say like low stakes, but I don't really know a better way to describe it. Like a fun low stakes fantasy fairy tale. I do like pirate stories, so I enjoyed that aspect of it because I just read The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi, and I'm like, yay, more pirate stories. I feel like this it's strange to have this be an adult book. To me, it felt like it should either be middle grade or a short fairy tale story for adults. I feel like the full-length novel format didn't totally work. It felt like it was just a little bit too long, and there was a lot of like unnecessary stuff along the way that was like fun, but I'm like, let's move this story along. I feel like if I gave half-star ratings, I would give this 3.5, but it's just going to be a 3-star book for me. It was my first Brandon Sanderson experience, and I knew that this was like a little bit different than his typical style. So like, I want to read more of him, but I am going to like not brace myself to have this be the style moving forward for all the future stuff that I read. So yeah, it was positive, just like a little bit, like it didn't 100% work for me, even though I still love the characters and I love the story.
Yeah.
You're
right that like there are some parts that are like not necessary. Like I agree that it is long for what it is. And yeah, it's so funny because usually like when you read one of his books, it's like one thing after the other and you don't even have the time to breathe. Like it's just like so much action and you're just like, oh my God, what's going on? So like it was, so yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I hadn't noticed, but now that you've said it, you're so right. Like there are lengths in it for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Okay. So out of all of you, I think I agree the most with Hillary. I don't have a rating yet, and that's on purpose because I do want to read this book again once I've read more Sanderson and get more of the references from the Cosmere world, because I've seen a lot of mostly spoiler-free reviews because I hadn't read the book yet. But a lot of people said, oh, I love this character already, so I immediately fell in love with the story because it was told by this character. And I was like, okay, so maybe my reading experience would have benefited from that, but because I didn't know the character, I was just being introduced to him, I didn't really feel that connection. So I guess that kind of hurts my feelings about the book a little bit. Even though I could appreciate it for what it is, I feel like I missed on so many things that could have made it so much better for me. Plus, about the pacing, it's very weird because the first like kind of 100 pages or so, I would say, I felt like were too fast. Like so many things were happening, and I felt like I didn't know any of the characters properly for me to care about them enough. Like immediately we have this love story and this girl who wants to run away immediately to save her loved one, and I'm like, oh, wait a second, I don't know anything about you, I don't know anything about him, what are we doing? So I struggled a little bit with that, because the thing about Sanderson and that I love about him so much usually is that, and like Sarah was saying, I think there's usually a lot of action in these books. That's true, and it can go quite quickly because there's always so much happening at the same time. But while he does that, he also develops the characters so well. Like it's this very right, like it's this very great balance between the two things. And here I felt like it was a little bit like too much action and plot and let's do this thing and move from one point to the other. But then the characters, it's like, I don't know you.
It's definitely than his other books.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Which I think it's fine. Like I think it fits the tone of the story. It's just not what I was expecting, I guess. So that felt a bit strange to me. Then from the middle point towards the ending, I enjoyed it a bit more. Also because we found out a few more informations about each one of the crew members, so that was better. But I do agree with Hillary. Like this didn't read like an adult novel to me, and that's very strange. I thought this felt a bit more like middle grade or young adult, I feel like. And I do prefer Sanderson with his adult novels. Like that's very clear for me. I tried reading Skyward, for instance, and I couldn't finish it because I didn't enjoy the writing style. And here I kind of had the same issue a few times. But then again, I feel like if I were to read this book again, after reading more books by him and maybe getting some more of the references, I would enjoy it more. So it was a very weird experience for me, because I get it's just supposed to be a fun novel, very lighthearted and heartwarming. And I agree with all of that. I think it works. It just wasn't exactly what I was expecting. And I always felt that I was missing something. So it was a little weird, let's say.
What you said about the character who narrates the story, I do think that it makes a difference. I think that it like changes the experience of reading it, just because that character who is mainly in the Stormlight Archive, like you get so much. You don't get much of his backstory, but you get so much of him in these books. He's such a mysterious character, but he's kind of like the storyteller of.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Stormlight Archive. Like he's the character who's always like popping out of nowhere just to like tell you a story randomly, and the characters are like, what does this mean? And he's just like, I don't know, and then he disappears. So to have him basically like narrate the entire story is like, it's meaningful in a way that I think that people who have read the Stormlight Archive really, really appreciate. While it can be, it will definitely change your experience if you haven't read it. So yeah, I definitely think that maybe it would change the way that you read the book for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But with that said, I did like his voice, and I did like that this was a story told by a storyteller. You know what I mean? I like that. And the way he, you know, talks to the reader. Sometimes there was a sentence like close to the ending that almost made me cry, because it was suddenly he was talking to us and said something that I was like, oh, okay. So that part really made me emotional. So I like that. I just missed some more connection, I guess, to all the characters. Yeah.
It's also a very meta book.
It is.
Like you said, like the character, like it's Sanderson having a character telling you the story of another character.
Yeah.
Which is not for everyone, but I think that in this context it works very, very well, because it's kind of like a, you know, like a fairy tale or a legend almost that he's telling you. So yeah, I think that's very funny. And I just honestly, I could just picture like Brandon Sanderson just like having fun writing this book.
Oh yeah, he certainly did. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I always love like books that are narrated by another character, because in my head I was trying to figure out like, why is it this person that's narrating it? Like why, like where are they when they're writing this? I also love like whenever he was talking and he would say something and it would just be like, this will be relevant later, and you're just like,
yeah, exactly.
Like what's happening? And
exactly.
It's so funny.
Yeah, that's fun.
Anything else you guys wanted to chat about in the spoiler-free section, or do you want to move on to our spoilery chat?
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing I wanted to say.
Yes.
This book is so beautiful. Like the
yes. Oh my god.
The beginning of the chapter illustrations.
The end paper.
Oh, so pretty.
So pretty.
The cups.
Let me
the cups. Yeah. Oh, that's so cute.
At the end, there's a rat in the one on my right, and the one on the left is shattered. And when I saw that at the end, I was just like, that makes so much sense. And also, I don't know, Sophia, I don't know if you have it.
Wow! Oh my god!
Whoa! Oh yeah, I do have that. I skipped over that page.
How? Oh my god! It's so
I just didn't see it.
It's stunning. And I think it's because like in the edition with the Kickstarter that he did, you had like illustrations like throughout. But I think it only included that one in the US.
Oh my god.
I would love to see like more fan art for this story. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, because certain things like you picture them in your head and you're just like, maybe that's what it's supposed to look like, but then I'm not too sure. And it's so funny because that always happens with Brandon Sanderson's books, because they are so wacky and wild, and you're just like, I'm trying to picture what you're telling me, my boy, but like I'm not too sure that like I follow. So it's very funny. Every single time I look at fan art afterwards, I'm like, oh, that's what he meant. Like, anyways. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, let's move on to our spoiler section. So if you haven't read the book, we are now going to be talking about spoilers. So feel free to step away and come back once you have read the book, or you can listen to our spoilers. But yeah. All right. Who wants to jump in?
I mean, can we talk about the rat? I feel like we need to talk about the rat.
Yeah.
when I saw that there was going to be a talking rat in this book, let me tell you, I got so excited. I was so happy about it.
Oh, did you see the twist coming?
I did not. Did you?
Really? Yeah. Because he was like, you know why? Because he kept saying things like, "Oh, I like you. Why are you helping me? Oh, I like you. I just like you." And I'm like, no, there's more to it. You're lying.
I never tried to guess those kind of things. I just let the story carry me. So I was just like, yeah, whatever. And then at some point, like when she got like into the tower with the sorceress, and the sorceress was like, "Here's Charlie," I was like, wait, no, that doesn't work. And then I was just like, it's the rat. Took me a second. But yeah. But I loved him. He was so funny.
Yeah, me too. He was cute and funny. Yeah.
Yeah, whenever he was like wringing his paws, I was just
know.
Oh, baby.
I don't know how I felt about his voice on the audiobook.
Oh,
It was did you guys listen to the audiobook or
no, I didn't.
It was like very, very nasally. And I was like, after a while, it like kind of got on my nerves, but it was kind of like what you would expect, like a rat-like character to be on an audiobook, but like a little more than what I wanted.
I wonder if the narrator of the audiobook is the same who does the Stormlight Archive. Because if so, and if he talks with that voice that he uses for that character in the Stormlight Archive the entire time, that must be so funny. Anyways, I'll have to look into that. I'll have to try and find that out. But yeah. But that's funny. But I mean, rats do have a big nose, so I guess it
works.
It works. I don't know. I thought you were going to say that he sounded very squeaky.
It wasn't like squeaky. It was like Peter Pettigrew vibes.
Oh,
That's what I was getting.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh, what did you guys think of the world building? Because I kind of struggled like at the beginning to figure out like how is this all coming, like to envision in my mind like where we were and like this ocean that was not an ocean. Like I was just kind of struggling with that a little bit.
I thought it was fun. I had like a little bit of difficulty imagining what the spores themselves look like, but I was just like, yeah, it's a sea and it's green and it's like, I imagined it kind of like little leaves or like little planty things, and I was just like, yeah, sure. It's more like the borders between the seas that was harder for me to like imagine, and also the fact that like the moon is so huge, like I couldn't really picture it just because we don't really have references for this. But yeah, no, otherwise I mean I think he didn't go into like too deep into the world building, which is once again very out of character for Brandy Sandy, because he usually like gives you basically like a crash course on the world when you're reading it. But I think that for this kind of story it worked because, you know, it's kind of like, yeah, it's fairy tale vibes. It's like in a land far, far away, and you're just like, yeah, sure, you just accept the convention and you move on. But
yeah, that's how I felt too. I didn't spend too much time trying to actually like visualize it. I'm just like, okay, there are different seas and like Tress comes from a rock and there's a big moon and spores. Like I just like went with it.
Yeah, me too.
I think that was the point though. Like I feel like the world was supposed to feel like bigger than the characters, and even them didn't really grasp the magic system totally, I feel like. Even if in the ending, I felt like Tress didn't even understand the world very well. She just went with it as she learned something new. So I think that was on purpose. Yeah.
It also makes sense because like she lived on like that rock for like her entire life.
Exactly.
So like the second she stepped foot on the sea, like she didn't know anything about the other seas either. So you were just like discovering it with her. So that makes sense.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the narrator would be like, if you were wondering how the weather works here, this is how, but also it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Little things.
Like at some point he said something like, if you're some person who cares about temperature, I understand that this is upsetting for you. You should also maybe try to make friends. And I was like, oh my god,
this is harsh.
Yeah. It was just so funny. Like he's so sassy. I love him. Anyways. It's another thing that, like, if you haven't read the Stormlight Archive, maybe like you don't understand why he's so sassy, but like that's the point of his character. Like in the Stormlight Archive, he's basically just like roasting everyone all the time. And it's like hilarious because he says what everybody's thinking but not saying out loud to everybody's face. So it's just, yeah. So that's why, like, for me, it was just so funny, like all of his little comments and stuff.
Yeah,
Wait, so
makes
this
sense.
character, like, how many characters from the Stormlight Archives, like, were in this book?
Just this one.
Just one. Okay.
Or at least that I know of. Maybe I missed another one, but I don't think so. I think like Ulam and maybe like the sorceress were from like also different parts of the Cosmere. But I'm not sure that I made the reference because he also mentioned the character from Mistborn, Sazed. At some point, yeah.
That one I got. And I was so happy.
He's such a
my boy, yes.
So I think like it was in regards to Ulam, so I think Ulam might be like linked to that other series, but I didn't get that reference because it's been too long since I've read Mistborn, so like I didn't like recognize him. I was just like, maybe I would have to go like into the Wikipedia, like the Brandon Sanderson wiki, and like dig
I don't think you have, like, there are a lot of people already making videos about all the Cosmere references you missed in Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Perfect.
So there are a lot of videos about that. Yeah.
Great.
It's amazing.
What did you guys think about the character who was using the tablet to communicate?
All right.
I liked it. I thought it was interesting. I could not visualize what that tablet looked like because I kept picturing like an iPad, and I'm like, there's no way an iPad would go in this setting. But again, one of those things I was just like, yep, I accept it.
It's magic, Hillary.
It's all just there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and I also really like that character Fort. I think his name was like overall, all of the characters I thought were like pretty great, especially Anne, like the cannon master who can't aim. I thought that was
I liked Anne. Yeah,
that was so cute. Oh,
I liked her.
And then at the end, when she aimed perfectly, like that scene almost made me cry.
Yeah, that was one thing I really liked about this book too, is just like the constant theme of like believing in yourself and trusting that you can do the thing that you're afraid of doing. I really liked that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, Mary, also I wanted to know your opinion on the cups collection, since you are a cup collector yourself.
I love that. I want to know more about her cup collection. When she started talking about that right on the first chapters, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, she gets me. It was beautiful. I love that.
I started reading it and I was just like, oh, Mary is gonna relate. And it was like the one thing that made me go like, yes, this book is for me on the first page is when she's talking about her hair.
Oh, right, yeah.
Each morning she heroically tamed it with brushing comb, then muzzled it with a ribbon and a tight braid. Yet some strands always found a way to escape and would fall and would wave free in the wind, eagerly greeting everyone she passed. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what it's like having curly hair. You're like, you just can't do anything about it. So that was funny. And it's such like a funny way to put it too. Like he could have been just like, she has curly hair. It's hard to tame. But then he's just like, they're waving.
Waving to people.
I like that.
So I thought it was very funny.
Yeah. I always liked how, like, even though I'm not a huge like quest book person, I liked how like every part of the quest had some kind of like twist to it. Like at the beginning when she was getting on the ship, I was like, oh, she's gonna be like hiding in this barrel. That's what they talked about. And then she's like actually the inspector. Like I felt like that they did that over and over again, where you would expect like one thing and it was just like a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was very, very fun.
Yeah. And then she's like waving on the dock, like, wait for me.
Yeah.
It's like, no, goodbye. Yeah. I really, really liked the beginning when, like you said, Mary, there were like a lot of things in quick succession. Because like I just went with like the the typical fairy tale thing where it's just like you have all of these archetype characters. Yeah. And so you're not necessarily supposed to like know too much about them. You're just like, okay, fine. Like we're just going with it. and then slowly we learn more about them, obviously, as the story went on.
Yeah, exactly.
In my opinion. But yeah, so I was just like, okay, yeah, this is fun. And like, yeah, when she turned out to be the inspector, I was just like, yes, classic Brandy Sandy. Of course, he did
Yeah,
that.
that makes sense. I think that's completely on me. I had other expectations for the book, so I was not expecting that fairy tale-esque coming from Sanderson, I guess. That's why I also want to reread this book eventually, because now I know what it is about and the format, you know? So I think it will work better.
But I mean, that's totally fair. Like, if you were not expecting that, I totally understand that you'd be like,
what is happening?
What do you mean you want to go after this boy that we
like what?
Yeah.
I did love, maybe it's a bit cheesy, but listen, I'm a hopeless romantic. Okay, so when he said that they both grew into different people, but they grow together, so their love makes sense and everything, I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
It was so sweet. I also really, really loved at the beginning when he was just like, "You're like a glove," and like she understood what he meant. I was just like,
I know,
sweet.
It's so cute.
It was so cute. Also, I love sorry, go for it.
I wanted, like, part of me throughout the book was like, I want this to be like Frozen vibes, where he ends up being like an asshole at the end, but she like found herself, so it was all fine, you know?
Oh my god.
But then it didn't happen that way. I was like, okay, this ending's fine too, but
there was a point in like the last few chapters where I thought something like that was going to happen.
Yeah.
It's like Charlie was gone, except not really gone because he was the rat, but like he was gone for so much of the book. I was like, we don't really know who he is. So like anything could happen.
That's true.
You're right. Yeah, for sure. And like when Huck, well, the rat, betrayed her, I was just like, no, not the cute little rat. And then it turned out it was Charlie, and I was just like, oh, can like they come back from that? But then like it all made sense. So I was just like, okay, it's fine.
We get it. Yeah.
Not a red flag. It's okay. They can be happy together, even if he's going to be a rat forever. But then they changed that up, so it was okay.
Of course they did. It's a fairy tale. Everything's fine.
Yeah. To change the rat into a human again.
The one thing I really didn't understand, and I read this part like 5 times, and I still don't get it. What gave it away that Charlie was like the first human version of Charlie wasn't actually him, and Tress was like, "Wait, this isn't actually Charlie." Like, what did she see? Like, what gave it away?
I think it's because he's telling her about the stories and he can't make it interesting, where before he was talking to her, and like no matter how much he rambled, she always found it interesting because she loves him, obviously.
Yes.
And he's like a good storyteller. But then like he was talking and talking and talking, which was just like, this is wrong. And then also like she realizes, I think, that like the rat said something about his curse being lifted when he brings her to the island, to the sorceress. And then she's like, but wait, he's still a rat. So like how, or like he doesn't seem like happy, or like the curse didn't, like I didn't see the curse being lifted. So like that's weird. And then she realizes that like the rat is Charlie or something. Okay. But I think it's mainly because like, yeah, he's rambling and she's just like, this is boring. Like, what do you mean? Like we changed too much and I think you're boring, or like, are you actually being boring? So or like she doesn't recognize his grin, maybe.
Yeah.
So
exactly. I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a few little clues here and there, I think.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go back and reread that now that you've said all that, because I was so confused, and I'm like, this is another thing that I'm just gonna have to like accept.
Mm-hmm.
The fairy tale magic, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But yeah, Elizabeth, yeah, you're right. I thought it was the smile. I don't think it matched one of his smiles. Yeah, because she talked about like all of his different smiles at the beginning. So yeah, I think it's that as well, I think.
Yeah. She didn't see the person she loved. I actually thought that was beautiful. So I love that reveal.
Yeah, it was so sweet.
One part that made me laugh was like at the beginning when like Charlie was sending her the cup still, and he was like, I was trying to be so boring so that these princesses wouldn't fall in love with me. He's like, I was talking about all this random stuff. Like, yes.
Yes, that was so funny.
Okay, that actually makes more sense now with the end part. Okay,
Good.
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's definitely the smile and the fact that like he's talking and she's like, "You're boring. Why are you boring?" I also love like another part that I really like, and I thought it was so funny considering that this book is a fantasy book, and fantasy books are always criticized for having like too many characters and too many names to remember. Is when the narrator is like, "There are too many people on this ship, so we're all going to call them Doug."
Yes,
That made me laugh so hard, and he was just like, a civilization has reached a new peak when the name Doug enters the equation. I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, it was so funny. It didn't make any sense. But then every single time it would be like, and the Dougs were celebrating. I was like,
Yeah.
the Dougs.
But I appreciate it because I feel like in fantasy novels, like sometimes there's this need to like give everybody a name, and it just gets so confusing. We just want to know like the people that actually matter need to have a name and personality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He even says that, right? He says, so these are the characters you need to know from this point on. This and this and this. That's it.
And then these, don't worry about them.
Don't worry. If they're relevant, I'll let you know. Yeah, that's it.
Like one of the Dougs did that. But yeah, that was just like so tongue-in-cheek, like coming from a fantasy writer. He's just like, yeah, I know what you guys say about my books. Like, I know I have too many characters.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You could tell he was having the time of his life writing his book.
Truly.
I love that.
Didn't he like write this book for initially like just for his wife? And
I think so.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
And he decided like she said that he should publish it, so then they
because they watched The Princess Bride, and she was just like, the titular character doesn't do much in that movie. So like, what would happen if like she would have gone after him instead of assuming that he was dead? So yeah, I think it's a very, I mean, it's a great premise, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I don't know if the Princess Bride, I don't remember because I've only watched it like once, I think. So I don't remember if there's like a narrator, because I know that I feel like there's one in like Stardust, which is like in my mind like a similar vibe, but I don't remember if there's like a narrator in The Princess Bride.
So it's like at the beginning there's this
book that opens
like grandfather and like son, or I don't remember what their relationship is, but it's like a bedtime story that he's reading him. And so he's like the narrator for the story, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, such a good movie. I need to rewatch that.
Yeah, me too. Oh my God. Okay. It's been a long time.
The only thing I know is about that one guy with the mustache who's always just like, my name is blah, 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 blah. You killed my father.
Oh, yeah. Wait, how is it?
Yeah.
I need to go. Wait.
My name. Oh, hold. Sarah, why did you say that? Oh God. Wait, what is his name?
What is like the actor's name? Or Inigo Montoya is the character.
Inigo Montoya.
Thank you.
We got there.
I've only seen the movie once, but I've seen that like meme and that scene so many times. It's just like burned into my brain.
Seared into your eyelids. You can't unsee it. Prepare to die.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, no, I need to rewatch The Princess Bride.
Is this book like part of a series? I know he has like a bunch of like secret project things going on.
I think they're all separate though.
Yeah, they're all different from what I know, because the second one just came out, and it's about this one guy who wakes up on like a planet, and he's just like doesn't know what's happening. So it's not similar. I think it's very different. I think that one's more sci-fi. But yeah, no. I think this one's truly like a standalone, and it is supposed to be like just one book.
It feels like a standalone, I would say.
Yeah. I don't think he would like have anything to say into a sequel unless like he would follow like different characters from the crew. But like,
I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think he'll do that. I don't think that's the point. Yeah. He already has enough series. He doesn't need to do that to himself. That's already enough.
I mean, he writes so many books. I think he could do it if he wanted. But
if he truly wanted, but like it's okay, Brandon. You don't have to do it.
It's okay.
Resist the urge. Resist.
Do it.
Oh, do it.
I wonder if any of his works will be adapted.
There are talks about a possible adaptation for Mistborn, and I'm very scared.
Yeah,
very scared.
There have been talk for that for a while. I don't know if we have news about it. I just heard about it once.
I think it is somewhat confirmed that it's gonna happen.
Oh,
so
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I'm scared though. I don't know what they'll do.
Yeah,
I hope it's good.
Oh, it's a movie too. It's
I know.
To be like
know. I'm guessing it will be 3 movies, right? One for each book.
Yeah, one for each book. But it would make so much more sense to have it be a series because they're so long. Like, how long is that book going to be? Is that going to be like a Dune adaptation or like
maybe?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But Brandon Sanderson is the screenwriter, so
I know that's a good sign. Yeah,
there's hope.
There's hope. Yeah.
Let's hope it's not gonna be garbage.
Wait, The Night Circus is getting an adaptation?
Yeah, supposedly, but that's been in the talks for like years as well. I don't know if that has been like renewed at some point recently, because I know that they talked, like when it first came out, it was supposed to be an adaptation, and they just never did it. So that was like what, 10 years ago. So I don't know if that's like that's been renewed with the success of the Starless Sea, because sometimes that happens, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
But a Night Circus movie would be magical
if they do it right.
If they do it right, yeah, for sure. That's always the danger.
Yeah.
I was freaking out because the Armand Gamache books, they have like an Amazon Prime series, and I was like, you can't make this. I haven't seen it, so maybe it's amazing, but you can't make this movie.
I've seen it. It's not the greatest. It's definitely not bad by any means. I think it's good. I think there are certain things that they added or changed that I'm just like, why would you do that? Like there are certain things that don't make sense to me. But it is good, and like the main actor is very, very good in his role.
Okay.
But some of the casting, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what is this? But the main character is very well cast. But I would suggest to read the books instead.
Books are great.
Notice.
Speaking of books, do we want to talk about our next book?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do that. Unless we had anything else to add about Tress.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I feel like we've covered most of it, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do we do this?
Does anyone have it? Does anyone have a physical copy?
Do not own it.
Neither.
Hillary, whose pick was it? Was it your pick?
Yeah, it was my pick. Yes. So we decided to read Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I'm just pulling up a synopsis here. So this one is, I've heard a lot of great reviews about this.
Yeah, me too. If you want, I know it at the top of my head. Like,
then go for it.
Both strokes. I was just like, I didn't want to like distract you or anything, but like I kind of know what the story is about. It's basically about these rivals who work into this journalist agency, I think, and it's set into a fantasy world that is very, very inspired by like the historical period between the two world wars, if I'm not mistaken. And basically the two main characters start to have this correspondence, but they don't know who the other person is. They don't know that they're rivals. Like, they know each other in person, but they don't know that they're sending letters to one another, because the main female character is trying to send letters to her brother who is at war. And so she starts sending these letters, but they actually end up into like her rival's hands. And so he starts to like reply And so they start to have this like conversation together, but like they don't know who the other person is. And then yeah, slowly like it starts to converge, and then I think it gets like bigger than their story. Like they get involved into the war effort and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of like a historical fiction based fantasy, with like a little bit of magic. I think it's mainly, like from what I've heard at least, it's more like historical fiction than fantasy, with like a heavy dash of romance, which I think is gonna be fun. So yeah, and I've read two other books by Rebecca Ross. She is also the author of River Enchanted and the Fire Endless, which is like a duology that takes place into a historical fantasy world that is inspired by Scotland, and it's so good. And she does like atmosphere and like world building so well. So I'm very, very excited about this one. This one is YA though. The other one is adult. So I don't know if that's going to be different. But yeah, it was like super dark and like atmospheric and just really, really great. So I have high expectations. I hope we end up liking it, but I think it's gonna be good because yeah, I've heard like so many great things about it.
Yay. I'm really
I
excited.
didn't even, I read the synopsis a long time ago, so I totally forgot like all the details that you mentioned. It would have been like these two people like write each other letters on a magical typewriter.
And that's it.
I mean, do we need to know more? I don't think so.
That would hook me. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's our book for July and August, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So our lunch will be like endish of August, beginning of September.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, the year is flying by, guys.
I know.
How are we already?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Crazy.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Yes.
All right. Any other last minute thoughts before we wrap up?
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything we needed to cover.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So in the description box for this video, we'll put all of our links to like our Instagram, Discord, everything, so that if you want to follow us and want to read the next book with us, you can connect with us over there. And I think that's going to be it for today's live show. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. And we'll see you in a couple of months for our next one.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.